Welcome to the All Access Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Joseph Bruen. This week, a very special guest, a trainee from Walter Killer Kowalski's wrestling school. He is a 2019 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, and he likes his peanut butter smooth. Ladies and gentlemen, Trey, the smooth operating gangsta. Welcome to the show, Trey.
Brother Joseph, thank you for the invite. Thank you, brother. How are you doing?
Doing well, man. Great to have you. Been wanting to have you on here for a while, so I'm glad we were able to work this out. And this is good. I feel like there's not a lot of interviews of you out there, so this is a good thing.
I have only been on one podcast about a decade ago, so you are right. There is not a lot of interviews out there of me, and that is by design. Don't want to get watered down and stuff. So whenever there's an interview out there of me for the 2 or 3 people that might actually care, it'll be special for them.
I appreciate you taking the time for sure. So let's rewind to the very beginning. Growing up as a child, when did you first discover pro wrestling? Who were some of your favorites growing up?
I gotta tell you, my father, my late father, rest his soul, been gone now for 13 years. He's the one that introduced me to the sport of professional wrestling, so it was him. So the early folks that I've gravitated towards wrestling that I've noticed, probably the same age range that you are in. You know, Superfly Jimmy Snuka is one who stands out. Who actually we have the same birthday, May 18th. So you have the Superfly Jimmy Snukas. You have the Dusty Rhodes. I can go on and on and on. You have the Randy Pipers. You have the Ricky Steamboat. Certainly, the gold standard of the all was Hulk Hogan. You and I could sit here and we could name all the names from that era, but basically in that era.
Yeah. And, looking back at that era, like you said, there were so many big names in the wrestling industry. How do you feel as it's transitioned into what it is today? I feel like maybe it's still solid, they're making more money than ever, but you don't see those larger than life superstars to that degree, I feel.
Yes, I would agree with you. As time changes and stuff, you have to change with the times and you have to change with the audience, wanting all that. So certainly you don't see a lot of those larger than life superstars figures. Matter of fact, the last one who just recently retired that was billed the last real champion, which is Axxess marketing, John Cena. He's basically like, the last of a dying breed for that type of genre of wrestling. But we're in a new day of wrestling now, so we make new heroes, we make new larger than life characters.
Yeah, and the fans are just as excited nowadays to see it as we were when we were younger. So, that's a good thing. And the business keeps evolving, but when it started evolving for you, when did you get that moment where you're like, you know what, this is something I want to try out myself? And how did you go about it?
Literally, the very first time that I saw a professional wrestling match, again, for my late father, is like something that I always gravitated towards and I had always wanted to get into. So I joined the Killer Kowalski's School of Professional Wrestling in October of 91. And I joined right at the tail end where everyone was larger than life characters. It wasn't a lot of smaller guys. I mean, I think I'm a pretty built guy at 6 foot. I had not grown into my man body yet. But when I had walked up those stairs, with, okay, I just want to be involved if I could be like a referee or a manager, because I assumed that everyone's going to be larger than life. Walk through those doors. The first 3 people who I saw who were actually in the ring, I was bigger than. So I said to myself, I could throw you, and I could definitely throw you. Sign me up. And I signed up on the spot.
Awesome. And how was that experience for you personally? Any personal experiences you could share about Walter and just kind of working with him over the years?
I got to tell you, Walter, love that man, miss that man. So yeah, Walter gave it to you straight. He gave everybody a chance. And all you had to do was just pay attention and just listen to him. Even when he's yelling at you, you listen to him. Even when he's telling you those stories, you listen to him. Even when he's telling you those same stories 50 times. You listen to him as if it was the very first time that he told you the story. You you just listen to Walter. But he gave everybody a chance. He had a vision, all that knowledge. He literally have forgotten more than any one of us would have ever known. So yes, really love that man. Really miss that man.
And do you remember any of the other students that were there at the same time as you, as far as the class of trainees there?
I gotta tell you, the first one that stands out, one of the first ones that I met was Tony Roy or Antoine Roy. Tony Roy was there 4 years before I got there. 4 years, Antoine Roy. Um, Perry Saturn, the Iron Horseman. We all knew, we all remember what Perry Saturn, how his career came. Very nice guy. Perry Saturn was there 2 years before me. There was the late, gorgeous Chris Duffy, who at the time was the best heel in all of independent wrestling in New England, hands down. I learned a lot from Chris Duffy. Um, Tim McNeely, when I first met him, he was terrible, Tim McNeely. Then he graduated college. He became the graduate Tim McNeely. Tim McNeely is one of those unsung talents that I don't think that he's remembered as properly as what he should be remembered. Tim McNeely was a talent. But the most famous Kowalski student was the student that I joined the school 1 year before him, terrorizing the man who would go on to be known as the Game, Triple H.
Wow. Any interactions with Triple H at that time, or did you just miss each other?
Oh no, no, no. We actually got to, work with each other and all this stuff. So I Triple H, I had 6 matches with Triple H. I had 6 matches with Triple H. And yeah, so he was, the thing about Triple H, right, is that once he walked in the door of the schools, and he was brought in by Tony Roy, Antoine Roy. Once Triple H walked in, he just had the look, he had it all. I turned to him, I said, boys, there goes our next champion. But Paul certainly was a student of the game, and he was just wanted to soak up all that knowledge. And the thing that usually stuck out about Triple H didn't have what I call the Steiner syndrome. The Steiner syndrome, and I got love and respect for the Steiner brothers, the Steiner syndrome that I said at that time was that you get these independent guys that are bulky and beefy, and all they want to do is like suplex you, and don't try to tell the story. There's only two Steiners, and they were not them. Triple H did not have the Steiner syndrome. He wanted to work. He wanted to learn how to tell the story. He gave bumps. He took bumps. So he was something special. A lot of those students there was special, but he was certainly the most special out of all of us.
And the feedback that was given to him at that time, what was his reaction? Did he feel that he had what it took, or was he a little nervous at that time? Was he pretty confident going in?
I think he was humble, and I also think that he was confident. But he took feedback from everybody. When you join professional wrestling, I don't know how it is now with new students out now, and I'm sure it's probably taught the same, but it's all about that martial arts mentality of respect and listening to the folks who were there before you. So as I said, I was there a year before him, but even I was there a month before him. There's like a certain pecking line order respect. And again, Triple H, he had the best body, he had the best look, he had it, but he always listened to everybody to what they had to say for his critique. He took it in and applied it accordingly. So yeah, so he just, again, he's somebody that could have had the Steiner syndrome, could have just suplexed us, but that wasn't him. And obviously he made the right moves for his career.
Yeah. And I'm sure you were doing some stuff match wise with Walter himself, but as far as your first match outside of the school as a graduate, do you remember back that very first time?
I think we all remember our first match. So I joined the school in October of 91. And my first match was June 20th of 92. And Joe, the only reason why it took that long is because I joined in October. I, at that time, was involved with youth basketball. So I joined in October, basically took January through March off. Walter thought I quit, came back at end of March, and I had my match. So it was June 20th against Mr. Attitude. Hudson, Massachusetts. It was a doubleheader show. So I was on the opening match with Mr. Attitude in the afternoon show. The 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 match went Broadway, so it was a time limit draw. Walter wanted, when you work for Walter Kowalski, and Walter Kowalski, he wanted to have your own identity. You just like he would always say, "Make the people notice you." So I came out as a baby face. I came out rapping. So I came out rapping before Men on a Mission. Okay, I just want to put that out there. I came out rapping before Men on a Mission. I came rapping before PN News. I came rapping. Okay, those guys made more money than me, but I did it first. Not saying they stole any gimmicks, just saying I did it first. That's it. Came out rapping. And funny thing, Joe, about going to Hudson, Mass that day is that I joined the school. I really didn't tell any friends with it because I didn't know if I was going to get booked. I didn't know I was going to be any good at it. So the very first match, I don't assume anything. I assumed that the first match was going to be the last match because Walter basically guaranteed you one match. Okay, so I'm going to assume that the first match is the last match. So I had my best friend there as my manager, so babyface manager. I had another good friend there that recorded it, and then I had my uncle there. So we're driving to Hudson, Mass, and then I felt as though that I needed to add something to the gimmick. So it's like, well, what can I add to the gimmick? And I just couldn't think of it. And then all of a sudden, like, I got this idea. I said, you know what? I think I need to have like some type of a sign. So the smooth sign. So the smooth sign was born. I said, I'm going to come out and I'm going to yell smooth and all that. Because as a baby face, my name was just the Smooth Operator. They told me, don't do that. It looks stupid. It's never going to work. But my gut went to doing this. And as you know, Joe, when you think of Trey TSOG, when you think of smooth, you think of peanut butter and you think of the smooth side. So
Yep.
that was invented literally on the way to my very first match. Okay. And about that first match, when the match was over, it went Broadway. I went in the locker room and I said, well, Walter, how was it? And he was like, huh. So I'm like, oh, I'm one and done. They said that's a compliment because if it was bad, he would have told you. So Abe Ford, his boss, his promoter, came running back. They said they love the rapper. They love the rapper. Walter jumped up. I discovered him. I discovered. T, tell him what you. T, tell him. I said, Walter, you're the man. They want the rapper to come back tonight. And Walter said, he's coming back tonight. Abe Ford left the locker room. I said, Walter, I'm not booked tonight because he told me that it was going to that one booking and we'll see what happened. Walter used to put his matches on a cue card, right? So um, he took out his cue card for the afternoon show or the evening show, and I don't want to say the person's name that he crossed off, but he crossed off his top babyface, put in the Smooth Operator, and I went up against gorgeous Chris Duffy. And I want to say my second match with gorgeous Chris Duffy was the match that I learned about psychology and how to be a professional wrestler.
What are the personal memories you have of Chris? Just hanging around him and being around him backstage.
Once that match was made, Chris came to me and he said, okay, Smooth, I seen your match with Mr. Attitude. And there's just a couple of tweaks that you should keep in mind. So, I was doing my arm twist was sloppy. I was doing one arm. You want to tighten it up. You want to do it with two arms. And there was some other things that he was saying. He was like, you're not listening to the crowd. So it was like when I had that match with him, it was like, okay, this was my time to learn. When you're the heel, when you're the bad guy, you're the one that dictates the match. Okay. So I'm a babyface. I'm a good guy. My first match, I didn't know how to dictate the match or whatever. My job was to just listen. So I listened to Chris Duffy and we had a nice scientific match. Catch as catch can. He went over, and what this man did for me, right? I'll never forget it. What this man did for me. So he told the ring announcer, he says, tell Smooth to drop kick me. This was after match, and Chris is, playing it up to the crowd. Tell Smooth to drop kick me, and I'm going to take a big bump over the top rope. He didn't have to do that for me. So I went in there, drop kicked him, took the big bump. The crowd raised up. So the crowd got what they wanted, which was their baby face to go over, even though their baby face did not go over. Chris Duffy didn't have to do that for me. He had just met me. I had gone on and worked a few other matches with Chris Duffy. But yeah, so again, the late Chris Duffy, at one point, in my opinion, he was the best heel in all of independent wrestling in New
A
England.
good man and a giving individual.
Yeah.
So, fast forward a little bit, you would go on to wrestle for the NWA New England.
Mhm.
You'd lock it up with Brutal Bob Evans. Any memories of working with Bob over the years?
I gotta tell you, at one point, Brutal Bob and we were like in this pocket universe. So yes, we're fast forwarding the story. So I worked for Kowalski for 5 years, right? And then all of a sudden, the independent scene started to change and modify a little bit. So I was fortunate enough to go over to CWA, which eventually went to NWA New England. And I was a part of this heel faction called the Brotherhood. And I used to always say, I put the brother in the Brotherhood. For 5 years, I wanted to be a heel for Kowalski. And he said, no, it's not going to happen. So for 5 years, so it was like, I just wanted to be the heel. I think you have more fun as a heel. You get to dictate the emotions, the fan emotions as the heel. It's just the heel really puts together the match. And I felt as though that I was on that level to do that, given that I'm a Kowalski student. I go to school 4 days a week, and we all just like learn from each other. So, heel faction, the Brotherhood. Then, when the Brotherhood kind of kicked me out of the Brotherhood, and I was a face, I think it was a more of an anti hero type thing. Bob Evans was like the perfect matchup for us. So I want to say that we were in a pocket universe because as storylines changed around the NWA New England, it was me and Bob Evans that was solid in that one little pocket universe thing. But Bob Evans, nice guy, hell of a worker, and we just clicked. The chemistry that we had in the ring,
And
fantastic.
spending 5 years with Walter Killer Kowalski and working for him, what would you say is your greatest takeaway from that time period?
My greatest takeaway is that just learning about the psychology of professional wrestling. Because when you get into wrestling, at least back then, you don't know anything about the psychology. And Walter kept it as such a family atmosphere. He sat there and he watched every match in the school. Watched it, critiqued it, and if you really messed up, he would stop your match. Well, first of all, he would say, "Boring, boring. If this if you do a move and you miss the person by a country mile and you sell it, fake, fake. Like this, the teacher teaching this, right? But then when you really irked him, he would just stop the match. He'd get into the ring, have everybody in the ring, and he blasts the people on the match that they were trying to have, and then just like basically quiz them and say, okay, this is what they did wrong. This doesn't work, not selling here, boring, fake. So it was like you just constantly learning, constantly learning.
And you go on to become part of a milestone event, the NWA 50th anniversary show. I believe that was in New Jersey. It was the Inferno Kid. It was yourself, and of course Ray Odyssey. What was that triple threat like? Some memories from that event, in particular, and especially working with Ray Odyssey.
NWA 50th anniversary in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Ray Odyssey, a longtime friend of the late Tony Rumble, and I had like one or two matches with Ray Odyssey prior to that. That was the first time that I met the Inferno Kid. So, but I just want to say, Dan, that so it was a triple threat match for my NWA New England Cruiserweight title. Now, you know your United States geography. New Jersey is not a part of New England, so my title should not have my title's a regional title. It should have never been on the line. Yet and still, it was on the line. I successfully defended it. Did I get the pinfall? No. It was a count out between me and Ray Odyssey, but I didn't get pinned. I didn't get submitted. But again, that was just a great time because it was like the NWA 50th anniversary. And again, you and I as kids, we knew about the NWA, we knew about the AWA, we knew about WCCW. Like we watch all the regional wrestling. So to be a part of the NWA 50th anniversary show, that was a big deal. I thought that was a big deal.
And what's your take on, how we get our news nowadays? Obviously social media wasn't a thing back then. It is now. It's huge. It's taken over, and this is how wrestling fans take in their information. When we were young, you had the wrestling magazines
The
and you're
sheet,
able to
the magazines and the sheets. Yes.
and there's the dirt sheets as well, yes. But you get to see that PWI sitting there. You get to look through it as your parents are shopping or whatever. What do you think the difference is between that time period and now as far as getting the information?
I think certainly I like the era that we grew up better. Uh, Information was not at your fingertips. You had to go to the newsstands to to read the rest of the magazines, whether you bought the magazine or not. So you had to do that, and then get into the business. Those sheets was like everything. Those sheets was really gave you the insight on a lot of stuff. I like how the information, like you had to seek out the information. The information wasn't relative at your fingertips. But again, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, is like as times change, you have to change with the times. So I like the era that we grew up with the wrestling magazine stuff. I've had like several wrestling magazines, myself. I like that era. I'm sure there might be one or two wrestling magazines out there, but certainly this is the era of social media. So, even if I want to find out some news quick, I'll just go to social media to see if I can, find something. But kiddies out there, don't believe everything you read on the interwebs.
This is true. Now, when it comes to another New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer and somebody who's done so much in wrestling business, you've mentioned him already, the Boston Bad Boy, Tony Rumble. Unfortunately, we lost him in 1999. Tell us all about your personal experiences with Tony over the years, what he was like behind the scenes and to work with.
My personal experience with Tony, I mean, I've certainly knew of Tony Rumble from those ICW days or IW. I forget what but the Joe Savoldi group when they wrestle in Parsippany, Pennsylvania. Um, so I've known them from like that. So I was actually again when I was like I never left Walter. I was always a Kowalski student, but I did after the first 5 years migrate to work for Tony because I thought that was like the next step of my evolution to be a professional wrestler. So one of the Kowalski boys, the real deal, Joel Davis, he introduced me to Tony Rumble. And Tony Rumble had heard of me. He had not seen my work rate, so he wanted me to produce a tape, VHS tape. I had plenty of those. I actually had all my matches on VHS tape because I had a good buddy that would tape those matches. Again, 5 years as a good guy, as a baby face. So I gave him the tape, and he looked at it. He says, "Okay, this is fantastic. It's just one thing, though. Um, I am restarting the Brotherhood, and I want you to be a heel. Do you think you can be a heel?" Well, absolutely. I think I could be a heel. I've been wanting to be a heel. So my first match for Tony, it was a dark match. Now for the 5 years prior, I would wear like a singlet and it was airbrush and it was just like baby face all over, right? So I took my darkest singlet that was airbrush and stuff, came out there, and I was a heel and I had that match. So Tony did like the match, and I was just the smooth operator. Tony did like the match, um, but he's like, you know what? You don't look like a heel. You still look like the smooth operator, and you need to have a name because the smooth operator is a title. You need to have a name. He says, so how about Johnson? I'm like Johnson. I'm like, ugh. I said, I don't like Johnson. At that time, my son was probably about 10 months and I said, I want to take my son's name. So, and as I said at the Hall of Fame induction in 2019, I said, I'm actually Trey Jr. I'm Trey the second because my son is Trey. So I took my son's name. I was Trey the Smooth Operator. Then eventually over time, it ended up shortened to be Trey the Smooth Operating Gangster, then Trey TSOG. But not to jump timelines. I was Trey the Smooth Operator, and also I had to change my gear. So I I went into the I learned how to sew, and I sewed all my gimmicks. So that's when I made changed to wear long pants, and I hung the pants past my behind. And folks to this day thought that they were sewn in. They were never sewn in. I put them on like regular pants. They said, "How do they stay up?" I said, "They stay up because I have a great imagination. That's how they stay up."
Now, the CWA, the Century Wrestling Alliance, obviously Tony Rumble, we just mentioned. 1997, you'd go on to team up with Big Rick Fuller against the Power Company Twins. Power Company were a team that were all over New England at the time for many years. And of course, Big Rick Fuller, well known as well. What was it like working with Big Rick Fuller?
Gentle giant. Gentle giant. I don't think he was a Kowalski student, but he certainly carried himself as a Kowalski student. Gentle giant. Again, somebody that did not have the Steiner syndrome that that I mentioned before. Again, no diss against the Steiners. There's only two legitimate Steiners, but he is somebody that could go in there and basically destroyed us all. He wanted to have a match. He wanted to tell a story. So again, a wealth of knowledge and information from this guy as well. And just a gentle giant.
And when it comes to the gimmick that you were using at the time, let's talk about the ring attire. You said airbrush tights. Where did you purchase those from? Where did you have a go-to for that style? And entrance music. What did you use for entrance music over the years?
Oh, I used a few interviews over years. So as far as the singlets, as far as the tights, I had someone who initially made those tights for me, and then that person taught me how to make them myself because I knew that could not last. So I made them myself. Airbrushing. I knew a guy who knew a guy who made the introductions, and he would airbrush all of my outfits, all of my gimmicks and stuff. So I basically had that. And as a baby face, I would always have a new outfit with like new airbrushing. So I spent like I put more money into the baby face gimmick than I did into the heel gimmick. Because the heel gimmick, it was basically one or two pieces and boom, that was it. I didn't feel as though I had to come out new all the time. So that was good. And what was the second part of that question? Oh yeah, the music and stuff that I came out to. Well, I have two favorite songs that I came out to over the years. Well, maybe even three favorite songs. But the first favorite song that I came out to, and that was during the Tony Rumble years, was Puff Daddy, All About the Benjamins. Now, we know what's going on with Puff Daddy these days. This podcast is not about that. I'm talking about a piece of music that worked at that time. It has a nice beat and stuff, and that's one of my favorites. Later on, I had gone out to Rah Rah by Naughty by Nature because Rah Rah to me was like a very heel song. And then towards the end of the career, I actually have a good friend of mine who does music, Richie Rich and 24 Karat Funk, shameless plug out there for them. And he created music for me and Slick Wagner Brown, and maybe we're going to probably get into the Slick years later on. But it's not how you fall, it's how you get up. So those are my three favorite songs that I came out to. There's a couple other songs during the career, but those are the three that really stuck out to me. Those are my three favorite.
And bouncing around, going back and forth a little bit, but bouncing around to 2003, you'd work for Mike Spada, the WWA, and you'd go one-on-one with Balls Mahoney. First of all, your experience working for the WWA, what was that like over the years with Mike Spada? And Balls Mahoney in the ring, what was that like?
Mike Spada, I really like Mike Spada. He gave it to you straight, like he was a straight shooter. You certainly knew where you stood, with him and all that. Others might have had problems with him. I did not have problems with him. But with Mike Spada, that's where the ghetto championship belt came in under that. And we'll probably get into that. This is your podcast. I'm not going to dictate how you're going to do your podcast. But Balls Mahoney, again, Balls Mahoney. Balls Mahoney, he can work. He can go catch as catch can, and he could tell that story, but his niche was the ECW, was the hardcore style and all that. And that was his niche. And he was great at it. but he could work catch can. He knew his holes and all this stuff. He was like a really good worker, really good worker. So I had a few matches with Balls Mahoney, and yeah, and they were fun. Again, it was somebody to to learn from and all that. At that time I was later on in my career and all that. So when you have two workers that know what's going on that season, you can go out there and you can dance together. So it was always a good dance with Balls Mahoney.
And the Ghetto Championship, that was actually my next question. Kind of tell us about the birth of that and how it started, and tell us all about that.
Well, the birth of the Ghetto Championship started in the AWA. So there was a brief moment of time where the AWA did not have a champion. For whatever reason, they didn't have the champion. I think the belt was taken off Big Dick Dudley or something like that. Like, I don't know, but we went like 2 months, I should say, where there wasn't a champion. So, Joe, how can you have a wrestling promotion that don't have a champion?
Right.
So I told the boys in the back, I said, I can guarantee you that the next show we're going to have a champion. How can you guarantee? Well, watch me. So I opened up the show. I just cut a promo, opened up the show, and I said, since this company right now doesn't have a recognized champion, we do now. I'm crowning myself the ghetto champion, and being the ghetto champion, I am the champion of this promotion. That happened September 21st, 2021 in Norwood, Massachusetts, at the Norwood Civic Center. So I kind of did it as like a sort of semi joke so we can have like a champion. But that went over. It just worked. That went over. So now the next show, we did have a recognized champion. He named somebody a champion. So we did have a recognized champion. But I ran with that ghetto championship belt for a while because it just like went over. And I am 3-time ghetto champion because I lost it to Chris Candido, got it back. I also lost it to Balls Mahoney and got it back. So there was this one show, Joe, and I forget exactly where it was at. Sergeant Slaughter was there, and he was just doing autographs. He certainly wasn't working. He was doing autographs and stuff. So I came out with the Ghetto Championship belt. So in the back, and Sergeant Slaughter will never remember me if I walked into a room, but I'll never forget what he said. He says, I can honestly say, he said, Trey, I can honestly say that I've held every championship there is to hold in the professional wrestling, except for one. I've never held the Ghetto Championship belt professional wrestling. And I said, Sarge, we can make this happen. Because, Joe, let me tell you, I would have had that match with Sergeant Slaughter. I would have dropped the title, and the Ghetto Championship means much. It would have meant much more than it does today. That match never happened, but if that match did happen, Sergeant Slaughter was going to be a Ghetto Champion. And then I would have been a 4-time ghetto champion. But yeah, so unfortunately that match didn't happen. But a compliment from Sergeant Slaughter. Sergeant Slaughter.
Absolutely. Yeah. One belt he hasn't had. You got one up on him there. That is for sure. Now, let's talk about BTW, Big Time Wrestling, among other shows as well. But you would go on to team up with Slick Wagner Brown. You would form a tag team known as Total Eclipse. Now, on this particular night that I wrote down, 2006, you'd go on to take on the French Connection, Tony Roy, Antoine Roua, and of course, Rush. But let's talk about the team itself, Total Eclipse. How was it formed? How did it come together? The team name? Tell us all about it.
First of all, Slick Wagner Brown, to me, and I've said this oftentimes and I'll say it forever, he is the best unsigned talent on the planet. Slick Wagner Brown, along with Antoine Roua and Rush, were all Kowalski students. Slick Wagner Brown, when he came to the school the same time. It was Slick Wagner Brown, it was Bo Douglas, it was Jason Rumble, it was Luis Ortiz. They all came at the same time, right? They're all the same age. They all came. They were all 17 years old. With Walter, you had to be 18 to get into the ring. Had to be 18. So whereas those guys would mostly come, Slick Wagner Brown came every single day for 1 year, couldn't get into the ring, but just listen, learned. I seen him every day, and I'm like, okay, this is somebody who wants it. And When he gets 18, if he still wants it, he signs up. I'm going to kind of like quote him, take him under my wing, and just teach him what I know and stuff, in hopes that one day that we could tag up. So we never did tag up for Walter Kowalski. We got to tag up years later, which is fine. By that time, Slick was such a seasoned veteran. Let's back up for a second. The year that he was coming to the school, I didn't even know his name. Didn't even bother to know his name. When he signed up and we trained and stuff, still didn't know his name. So it was time for him to be on a show, because in my mind, we were going to be a tag team. So I'm like, what's your name? Wagner Brown. What's your work name? Wagner Brown. Oh, well, that's not going to work. If you're going to team with the smooth operator, you have to beat. So at that time, Sisters with Voices, SWV, was on top. So I said, you know what? Slick Wagner Brown, SWB. So I actually suggested to Wagner to use Slick, and he has, and he certainly ran with it. I'm not taking credit for Wagner's career. Wagner's a hard worker. Love that man. I made that suggestion. He thought it was a good suggestion and kept it to this very day. So we have known each other for years. Now, the name Total Eclipse, there was this break dancing group back in the day, four good friends of mine, and they were all African Americans, blacks, brothers, however you want to classify them, four of them. And their group name was Total Eclipse. So I always had that in the back of my mind. If I ever got into wrestling and had a black tag team partner, it would be Total Eclipse. And that's how that name came about. And
Very
pitched
nice.
it, pitched it to Wagner, and he liked it as well. So everything that I did in my career, professional wrestling, it was always like a collaborative thing. So whether I was the veteran or not, it was just like always a collaborative thing. Hey, let's talk about this. And it just seems that a lot of my ideas others had liked as well. So that's a good thing.
And it seems like you guys meshed very well together. It was almost meant to be, you know?
I think it was meant to be.
Yeah. Now, if you could pick one moment, this may be tough, but your entire career, one moment that stands out for you personally, well, what is your number one moment of all time?
My number one moment is when I got the total respect in the Walter Kowalski locker room. So this is a not a well known moment unless you in the Walter um, locker room, and it was in New Hampshire. I forget what venue in New Hampshire, but it was early in my career. So Walter had this person, Jed Jed Screen. Don't even know Jed's last name, Jed Screen, and he was a Walter veteran. This dude was legitimately like 6'6", 6'7". He resembled Sid Vicious, and yeah. So we are working a match in the school, and so good match in school. It was a legitimate match. I was Look, we worked on a match in the school so we can have a good presentation out there where we could tell a David versus Goliath type of story. So when we were in the school, we worked a match one way. And I was under the impression that the match was going to go that way. So then in the school, after it went that way, Jed told me that it's not going to go that way. I'm basically going to squash you. And I didn't like that. I didn't think that was cool. So, and I'm no punk. I mean, he's bigger than me. I'm no punk. So we get to the venue and all this stuff, and that was still his attitude. So we actually went out there, and it was a fight. It was a fight. Now the match itself was bad. It was horrible. Did I go over? Hell no, I didn't go over. I counted the lights. Was it a fight? Yes, it was a fight. Did I back down? No, I didn't back down. So and literally the whole locker room was like watching. The match probably should have never taken place because of the size differential anyway. So after the match, I'm sitting there in the back, and my right arm is like literally hanging because I had hit him so hard, right? I swear it was like a partial dislocation of the shoulder. I could have sworn it was, right. So I'm sitting there, rocking like this, and this guy's coming to me and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh. he's coming to me. He's going to like want to go again. I'm only going to have like one good shot. He comes over. He's like, great match. So I lifted my hand and shook his hand. I got his respect because I didn't back down from him. And I got the respect of the locker room because maybe they thought I was crazy. But that was like one of the crown jewel moments of my career that I believe that, because I think from that, having my stand, I think I had like a certain reputation that I'm not going to take your guff, no matter who you are, the size differential. I was owning the business for a very short time, and Jed Screen was in there for years. So think about that. I think that would be the number one moment. Again, that's something that's not a lot of people don't know unless you were at that venue that day.
Right. Wow, that's a good story right there. So, what would you say is the most challenging part about being in the industry?
The most challenging part, I probably think like the family life. Because the family life comes first, and when you make a commitment to professional wrestling, and certainly when you're going to be on a show, you have to honor that commitment, and you got to be there at a certain time and all that. And you just but sometimes family stuff, family life just interferes, makes it challenging, but makes it challenging for everybody. You still have a commitment. You still have a time commitment. You have to be accountable to the promoter, to the whole organization. So again, sometimes it can be tough, but it's tough for everybody. It's tough for everybody. So I would say that sometimes family stuff is really serious family stuff, but you have to put that aside when it comes game day.
Yeah. And all the matches you've had, if you could pick three, what would you say are your top three matches that you personally enjoyed the most?
I know that you don't provide questions ahead of time. I wish you had provided this one ahead of time because this would have given me. So, what are the three matches? Certainly not in any particular order. One match would be against Terrorizing, and it was in not Norwood. It was in Massachusetts, Needham. It was in Needham, Massachusetts, and I think that footage of that match is still somewhere circling on the internet and all this stuff. That was the energy with the crowd and all that was just there, and the match was a really really good match. And like I said, I faced Terrorizing 6 times. I went 0-5-1, so it was one time limit draw. That was the one that was the time limit draw. So that so that was a so that was a memorable match. So two more memorable matches. Um, Walter Kowalski's last recorded match. It was on a big time wrestling show where he teamed with Ox Baker, and we had a tag team tournament, and they were recognized as the oldest tag team champions in the history of professional wrestling. So the match came down to me and Antoine Ruas, so we were tagging against those two. So just to be able to go in there and put Walter over. Now Walter wasn't fast moving at the time. So how we had to sell it is that myself and Tony we eliminated one of the babyface favorites, and as they were getting their heat back on us, um, Kowalski and Ox Baker was walking to the ring. So, and I'm calling the shots. Whip me off, double backdrop. I go, okay, Walter's just coming at the curtain. Shoot me off again. Give me this move. Go. Ah, he only passed the first seat. Shoot me off. I took all these bumps to wait for Walter to get to the ring. And then he got to the ring. Him and Ox got to the ring. And, just to be able to, have a match with your teacher and put your teacher over. So that would be one of my top three matches. And another top three match, I would say any match that I teamed up with Slick Wagner Brown.
And advice, when it comes to advice, what advice do you have for somebody that's getting into the business now or looking to do so?
Keep your mouth shut and just listen. Understand that this is hard work and it's not meant for everybody. If everybody could do it, everybody would be doing it. And I also advise that if you have never did an athletic endeavor in your life, don't do professional wrestling because you have to have athleticism. You have to be, it doesn't matter what your body type is, what your body shape is. You have to have done something athletic in your life because people want to say that professional wrestling's fake. No, it's real. You can really get hurt in there. You could really die in the ring. You could really hurt somebody in the ring. So yeah, so it's just, keep your mouth shut and just listen and treat it with the respect that it deserves.
And you mentioned the Brotherhood. Another faction that you were a part of was the Black Talented Wrestlers. You had Big Business. You had Bobby Ocean, Slick Wagner Brown, your partner. Tell us how that started, and tell us all about that experience.
How that started was with as Rush and Antoine Rual was breaking up as the heel tag team. They needed a heel tag team. So the Total Eclipse tag team was a face tag team. And I had wanted to go back to heel. So once we knew that Antoine and Rush, that their time was up, we needed a heel tag team. So we just cut a promo in the back. So it was one match in Hudson, not Hudson, in um, right now, I'm blocking on it now. Webster, Massachusetts. So one match in Webster, Massachusetts, we took on the Alfonso brothers, Slick and I, and so it's a double babyface match, and we ended up turning on them, so we ended up turning heel, and then we cut a promo in the back, and I have to tell you, Joe, what was fortunate with my career is that I could always go off the top of my head, impromptu. I never had to sit around and just think about things. It just flowed. So we cut this promo afterwards that we were turning heel and all that, and the whole thing was that the company was keeping us down. We were doing the hard work of the companies. We took care of the French Connection. We took care of this. We took care of that. Everything that the company wanted us to do, we took care of. But we just wasn't getting our just desserts or whatever. So then I just said, this company is a racist company, and BTW doesn't stand for big time wrestling. It stands for Black Talented Wrestlers, just off the cuff. So then, once we start recording, Slick was like, "Oh man, that was just lit, man. When did you come up with that?" I said, "Just like on the spot, just on the spot." So we were the heels. It was Black Talented Wrestling, and we tried to portray the company as being a racist company. So you're mad at us. You think that we're the bad guys. We're not the bad guys. We're the good guys. The company is the bad guys by the way they treat us, the good guys. It worked. It worked. We brought in Bobby Ocean, and it just worked. Had fun. And Joe, I got to tell you, that was the most fun I had in my career, teaming with Slick Wagner Brown and brother Bobby Ocean, BTW, Black Talent Wrestlers. Most fun I ever had in my career.
Awesome. Very nice. I'm going to throw a few names at you. Any
Okay.
personal memories that come at you? You could throw it back at me. The Punisher Don Vega.
Punisher Don Vega. Cool guy. We did a couple of tag teams. We never faced each other, but we did a couple of tag teams. Yeah, very cool guy. Like his work rate. Yeah, cool.
AJ Matrano.
AJ Matrano. He left us way too soon. AJ Matrano. He was such talent. He had such charisma. AJ had it all. Left us far too soon. He was in his late 20s, I believe. Yeah, 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 yeah. AJ. AJ kind of was the heart and soul of BTW because he did everything in BTW in front of the camera, behind the camera and stuff. He was the right hand man for the promoter Steve Perkins and stuff. So yeah, so I could probably go on and on about AJ Matron, but I just say that he was taken from us way too soon.
The Promise, Antonio Thomas.
The Promise, Antonio Thomas. We've only met a couple of times. Our careers crossed a couple of times. I had one match against him Um, but yeah, somebody who certainly knows psychology and has the ability to reinvent himself from when he was in the Indies to when he was in New York and then came back to the Indies. The way he seamlessly reinvented himself. That's talent.
The Power Company twins, Dave and Dean.
The Power Company twins, it's legitimate twins, legitimate power company. And, for a couple of guys that were built like brick houses, they moved so fluid in the ring. Synchronized.
Right. Benny Jux.
Benny Jux. Benny Jux is he Benny Jux is a unsung hero. He is very talented. He has stamina for days. Came in several years after me. He's a quick learner, always showed respect, a very talented person. And he has a stunt person's background. He used to be like a stunt person. So, yeah, talented dude.
Cousin Larry Huntley.
Cousin Larry Huntley. Actually, it was Cousin Larry Huntley was my last recorded match again. We've been in the business roughly around the same time and stuff. And yeah, just somebody that likes to have fun in the ring, likes to have fun with his gimmick, and likes to tell that story. Yes, yes. Great worker.
Sure thing, Mark Sherman.
The sure thing, Mark Sherman. It's my how I got how I got heat. How I got heat with Mark Sherman. We wrestled in Malden, and this was within his first couple of years. So he was new to the business. He was green, and we had conversations in the back. And there was this group of fans that had a Mark Sherman fat head, and I'm always like, let's get the fans into this. So I went out as the heel, and I smeared peanut butter on that fat head. The heat that I caught, which was fine because that's what I was going for. The heat that I caught, I was going for that. But then that heat turned into basically lies because, as I say, I got the most heat ever. It spilled over to social media, but the social media part of it was a lie. Talking about that I took the person's pocketbook and all the time. Like, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. But yeah, so it was yeah, so when I think of Mark Sherman, I haven't seen him work in years. But I always think about that match with Mark Sherman. Got a really lot of heat just for smearing peanut butter on his fat head. So yeah, so yeah.
Tony Ulysses.
Tony Ulysses is a longtime Kowalski student. I've never been in the ring with him, but I've certainly been on shows with him. And again, somebody with the psychology. Well, when you're a Kowalski student, you've been around for a while, you have psychology down. So he's someone in the back that I would listen to. Again, I bumped into him the early parts of my career. And yeah, so he was a source of information.
And Damian Darling.
Damian Darling's another Kowalski student that wrestled in the Tony Rumble thing. And he came around the same time as, no, a little bit before. He would team with um, Steve King. So they were the Dark Angels and stuff. Yeah, he is somebody. Excuse me. Tony Rumble would call him the babyface assassin. Again, good worker and a legitimate tough guy.
Shockwave the Robot.
Shockwave the Robot. You want to talk about somebody that reinvent themselves? So Shockwave was one way, and I'm not going to be spoiling any gimmicks or whatever, but he was one way, and he was basically lost in the crowd. Good worker, lost in the crowd, couldn't get over, don't know why. He had a nice work rate and all this stuff. He sat down, reinvented himself, Shockwave the Robot, and he took off with that. That was gold. That was being able to reinvent yourself. Gold, brilliance.
And you go on as a member of the PWI 500 in 1998, which at that time, that was a big deal to be a part of the PWI 500. What was that experience like? Just kind of seeing your name in there.
That was a big deal. I think I was like 361 or 363 or something like that. Three something. Yeah, that certainly was a big deal, as we said early in the podcast about having those mock magazines and stuff. So, yes, that was a big deal. So, I still have that. I still have that. I think Stone Cold Steve Austin is on the cover of that. I still have that, so that's something that I can show my children who are grown children now. But you know what? I looked at that recently. When I say recently, like within the past year, just look at some names or whatever. So it's kind of like cool and wild that Adam Pearce, one of the figureheads of WWE now, was ranked that year, and I was ranked higher than him. Imagine that.
Yes.
That's kind of cool, yeah. And again, I don't remember who else was ranked in there, but yeah, as you said, it was a big deal, and I got to check that off the bucket list.
Now, Mount Rushmore, there's different ways to look at it. Whoever made the most money, biggest star power, or just personal favorites. Chiming your inner fan, what would your personal Mount Rushmore be for pro wrestling as a whole?
Pro wrestling as a whole. Well, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, he is certainly up there. Um, I will say Hulk Hogan because what he did to the industry, for the industry. I big fan of Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper. So again, this is not just like work rate. This is just like everything. And again, all these lists are subjective. And I could say four now, and then 30 minutes from now, I could probably say four different ones.
Right.
Well, who would a fourth one be? You have your Savages, but I would probably put Ricky Steamboat ahead. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like, again, it's kind of hard to do because it's so subjective. Um, but Ric Flair would definitely, certainly be on there.
When it comes to a dream match, any era, it could be before your time, could be, during your period, or even, a future star that's just up and coming now. Who would that dream match be with you?
That dream match would be Trey TSOG versus Rob Van Dam and ECW for for whatever title that he had there. So that would be a dream match. But dream. I was watching on YouTube, and it was like this morning I watched like a lot of YouTube clips and stuff, and there was a podcast with Bruce Pritchard, and they were saying how WrestleMania 9 they were trying to pitch a match for Hulk Hogan against Dusty Rhodes. And it was like WrestleMania 9. So those two have never faced each other in the ring. And, if we had this podcast yesterday, I wouldn't even have this in mind because I wouldn't have known about it.
Right.
But yeah, that would have been a dream match. And the thing is, Vince at that time, he's like, Hogan's the man and Hogan feeds them all. So like, you can't turn Hogan heel. Um, But I think, and what they said, what Bruce Pritchard said, that the problem was that both of them wanted to be a heel. Yes.
Yeah.
So Hogan would have willingly been a heel. That would have been a good match because the psychology of it, because Dusty Rhodes, living legend, Dusty Rhodes. So Dusty Rhodes against Hulk Hogan, that would have been something.
And for you personally, traveling from town to town all these years, you hit so many different venues. Do you have a personal favorite venue to work in out of the years?
Favorite venue. I tell you, the venue that I would have liked to gone back to was been Hudson, Mass, where it all started off. I would like to go to Hudson, Mass, but I think my favorite venue was up there in Worcester again. And I just said the venue in Worcester, Webster. I think Webster. They had that town hall and stuff. It was set up kind of like an ECW type thing, flavor. Yeah, so Webster, Mass, I would have to say be my favorite venue to work at.
Memories of working with Hacksaw Jim Duggan one on one.
Had that one match with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Hacksaw again, he's one of the he's one of the legends, if you will, and someone that you just sit back and listen and learn. So Hacksaw, he was later on his career, his match went one particular way. The match He wanted the match to go a particular way, and that's the way that match goes, and that's fine. So when I worked, and he was on several of our shows, so I watched his match, and his match went the same way, and that is completely fine. He certainly has earned that, and all the stuff. You get to a certain age, you're not going to take bumps. You're not going to take bumps from nobodies, and in your eyes, I get it. So when I worked that one match with Hacksaw, he's like, Trey, I work one way, and I said, uh, Jim, I've seen several of your matches. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make you look like $1,000,000, and whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do. So yeah, call in the ring and all that stuff, and I'm going to be there for you. And I was there for him and all that stuff, and he was very appreciative after that match. Just so when a veteran like that takes the time after the match to come over and shake your hand and thank you, that is key. That is almost worth more than the payday. Almost.
Right, almost. Now, all the promotions you've worked for, is there a favorite promotion over the years? Must I, dare I say?
Again, the favorite promotion has to be big time wrestling. BTW. I've always had creative control over my persona of my career and all that stuff. BTW, I had that, but it was also like a collaborative effort as well. I've done some collaborations with the promoters there and all this stuff. Again, we talk about the late AJ Matrano. We had commentated on several of their TV shows and stuff. So yeah, I just want to say that BTW probably the best promotion that I've worked for, and the promotion I had the most fun at. And yeah, so hands down BTW. So even though I said BTW, Black Talented Wrestlers, and they were trying to keep us down, and it was a racist company and all that stuff, that was just for the storyline, not a racist company, not a racist promoter, but everything worked at that time.
Yeah. You would also step in the ring one-on-one with Shane Douglas. Any memories from that match?
Shane Douglas, yeah, it was. I wish I had to work with him like a few more times. He's someone that we've all grown up watching, Shane Douglas, and again, it was under the BTW banner, and he worked a certain style and all that. And again, when you are a veteran, you really don't have to do any talking. It's just like a dance. And that one match on that one show, I think we had a pretty decent dance.
And is there a funny road story or behind the scenes story that just kind of sticks out in your mind that you still think about from time to time today?
Funniest road story. Again, this is something that only if you were in the car. So we had this is my early days back within my first 5 years of Walter Kowalski. So we had a show up in Bangor, Maine. So one wrestler, Eric Hutchison, he was the one that drove. So in that car was myself, was Mel Simons, was my uncle, and was my sister. So my sister was the only female in that car. So we drove up. We drove up there. Now, on the way driving up there, we heard about schmuck, schmuck. I mean, everybody knows what a schmuck is. You know, um, a lingo in professional wrestling. Schmuck, schmuck. So on the way up there, we're just all calling Eric Hutchinson a schmuck, right? And there was like a lot of cussing in that car, and he was doing the most of the cussing. So schmuck, 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 right? So we get to the venue, and he was unlucky because he had his first match. He had Terrorizing's first match, and Terrorizing's built, and Eric Hutchinson is half my size, and it was just so schmuck, schmuck, schmuck. We went out to eat afterwards, and he did something stupid on the road because we were all following each other as wrestlers, and they kept on calling him schmuck, schmuck, schmuck. So the 4 hours on the way home, calling him schmuck, and again he had a cussing, cussing. So we were probably 30 minutes away from home, and my sister doesn't say anything this entire time, and he tells a story, he says something, and then he says, "Oh, but I shouldn't say that because we have a lady in the car." And my sister turned around and said, "Well, you done said everything else, you schmuck." And we just, so again, a story that you wouldn't know unless you were in that car, but that was really funny.
And looking one more time at the Mount Rushmore, Mount Rushmore for New England, what would you say the top four to come out of the New England scene over the years?
Oh I wish you had asked me that. So I wish you had asked me that pre ahead. So Obviously, the top one you have to start with terrorizing Triple H, Paul Levesque. He is number one, period, end of story, hands down. Boom. Perry Saturn, the Iron Horseman. He is somebody that I really want to see make it. And again, Perry Saturn is someone that I learned a lot of my psychology from. Perry Saturn. Uh, China. China changed the game for women and all that stuff. China. So those are the top three. And who was the fourth one? Who was the fourth one? Let's come back to that before the close of this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And usually with a Mount Rushmore, the fourth one is always interchangeable. You can kind of add whoever you'd like, but it's always that fourth number that you can kind of move around a little bit.
You know what I'm going to do for the fourth one, Joe? I'm going to give it up for the late gorgeous Chris Duffy.
There we go. It's funny. I literally just thought of him when you said that. A great talent indeed, and another one just lost too soon, unfortunately. So as we're getting to the end here, the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, 2015, at the Rhode Island Convention Center, you would go on to induct your former tag team partner in Slick Wagner Brown. And then 2019, fast forward, at the Crown Plaza in Warwick, you yourself were inducted. Any memories of those experiences?
I remember Slick asking me to induct him, and I was like, oh, absolutely, I'll induct him and all this stuff, because again, Slick has wrestled all over the world, and again, he is the best unsigned talent in the game. And I actually said that at his, when I inducted him in. So yeah, so I was happy and pleased that because Slick could have had anybody induct him, and so he asked me to induct him. So yeah, so that was good. Now for my induction, I would have loved to have Slick induct me, but there was two people that trumped Slick, and they were my children, my son and my daughter, and they have seen me wrestle all through like their childhood and stuff. They haven't seen me wrestle in their adult years. I would love to do one more match for them to watch me in their adult years. I would love to do one more match. Will that happen? Who knows? But it was just a great way to cap off a career to have your children induct you. So, Joe, you were there. My induction, I just want to bring everybody into the Hall of Fame with me. So I shouted out names and all that. I went Facebook Live and just brought it's like I went into the Hall of Fame, but we all went into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Um, yeah, because I certainly didn't do it by myself. Did I get in the ring and perform? Yes. But all the stuff that happened before those 8 to 10 minutes in the ring, there's a lot that goes into it. And there was a lot that went into my career. So there's a lot of folks that had a hand in my career, positively, negatively. So when I went in, the goal was to bring everybody in with me.
And like you said, you got to share the stage with your daughter and the original Trey as well. So
Yes.
a very special moment.
And he cut his very first promo.
That's right. Yes. Yes, he did. So fast forward many years from now, looking back at your career, how do you want to be remembered? What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, during the career, I wanted it to be, because as Walter says, you got to make the people notice you. Stick out and make the people notice you. So during the career, I wanted folks to know that, or to if they only remember one match, or if they only got entertained on one match, it would be a match involving me. So whether it was in my first 5 years of coming out rapping and getting the crowd into it, going into the crowd and hyping them up, whether it was during those years or the years where I was a heel and getting the crowd riled up that way, is just, I wanted you to come away with that I was entertained in that particular match. So for my career, I just want the same thing. When you saw me wrestle, were you entertained? Were your emotions, moved? Did you pay attention? did you even care? So were you, again, whether you liked me or you didn't like me, did I do my job? Did I have the people notice me? And if people remember me and stuff, then that's a good thing. That means that I did my job. Thank you, Walter Kowalski.
Right. Well, Trey, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure and honor to have you here, and long overdue, like I said. So this is great that we were able to do this, take a deep dive into your career, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the invite, brother. And you know what? I wasn't planning on doing this, but you go, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna leave my studio set, and I'm gonna, So we talked about the Ghetto Championship belt, and I sent you a picture of that, and you can do whatever you need to do in the post. But I don't know if you remember this, but after I was inducted, I shot you a text and said, "Hey, would you mind if I took the Hall of Fame logo and made a belt out of it?" You said, "Oh, go ahead, brother, go ahead." So I do have a Hall of Fame. Let me make sure. Yeah.
Wow.
So I do have a Hall of Fame.
Oh my gosh, that's
Hall of
amazing.
Fame belt.
Look at
So you
that.
got that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
unbelievable.
on one side, I got peanut
Smooth.
butter smooth, the smooth peanut butter.
Oh man.
And the other side, I got the
Oh man.
smooth. I got the smooth side. I got the smooth side. So yeah, so this Hall of Fame belt sits in my glass trophy case with my other two belts, which is the Ghetto Championship belt and the NWA New England Cruiserweight.
Well, thank you for showing me the finished product. That thing came out amazing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, man. Well, for Trey, the smooth operating gangsta, I'm Joseph Bruen. This has been the All Access Entertainment Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comments. We'd like to hear from you, the fans, how you enjoyed the interview, and we'll see you all next time.